The illusion of resistance. January 1945. Berlin, 3:40 hours. The city is dark, not asleep but bracing. Anti-aircraft guns sit silent on rooftops dusted with snow, their crews smoking with numb fingers, listening for bombers that may or may not come tonight. Deep beneath the chancellery, in a concrete bunker sealed from reality, Adolf Hitler stands over a map of Europe that no longer exists. Red and blue pins still mark divisions. Arrows still point west and east, bold and confident. On paper, Germany is still fighting a war of maneuver and counterattack. Outside the bunker, Germany is bleeding out. On both fronts, the illusion of resistance is all that remains. In the west, the Allies have already pushed the Rhine. Entire German armies have vanished. Some captured, others simply dissolved. Units retreat without orders, then without officers, then without purpose. Fuel is gone. Ammunition is rationed by the handful. Tanks are abandoned by the roadside, perfectly intact but useless, their crews marching east on foot in the snow. In the east, the Red Army has shattered the last defensive lines. East Prussia is collapsing. Refugees flood westward in endless columns. Women pulling children on sleds, old men dragging suitcases through frozen mud, eyes hollow, faces burned raw by wind and fear. Luftwaffe fighters scream overhead, but not to defend them, to flee. Still in Berlin, the orders continue. Hitler speaks of counteroffensives, of miracle weapons, of divisions that exist only in his imagination. Staff officers nod, take notes, and leave the room knowing full well that none of it can be done. But no one says the word aloud. Defeat. So Germany fights on, not because it can win, but because stopping feels unthinkable. Across the Reich, the last reserves are thrown into the fire. The Volkssturm is mobilized, boys barely old enough to shave, and men too old to run. They are handed single-shot rifles, Panzerfaust they barely understand, and armbands that mark them as soldiers in a war already lost. In bombed-out cities, teenage boys dig anti-tank ditches, while American artillery rumbles closer each day. In villages along the Oder River, old men in mismatched uniforms wait in foxholes for Soviet armor they know they cannot stop. They are told this is sacrifice. They are told this is duty. They are not told how quickly it will end. German propaganda still broadcasts promises of reversal. Newspapers speak of new divisions forming, of enemies overstretched, of time running out, not for Germany, but for its attackers. Radios crackle with speeches insisting that resistance itself will change fate. But at the front, the truth is visible to anyone who looks. German soldiers no longer ask how to win. They ask where to surrender. Officers tear insignia from their collars before retreating. Orders arrive hours late, or not at all. Entire units melt into forests rather than face encirclement. Discipline does not collapse in a single moment. It erodes, quietly, relentlessly, and yet in Berlin, the illusion holds. Hitler refuses evacuation, refuses negotiation, refuses reality. He believes willpower can still bend the war back into shape. That loyalty will matter more than tanks. That obedience will outweigh exhaustion. What he does not see, what he cannot see from beneath meters of reinforced concrete, is that Germany is no longer a nation at war. It is a battlefield being fought over by others. Every hour the fronts contract. Every day the space between the Western Allies and the Red Army shrinks. Germany is not defending territory anymore. It is delaying the inevitable one ruined town at a time. And soon, very soon, the illusion of resistance will shatter. Not slowly, not gently, but all at once. When the barriers finally break, and the war comes crashing into the heart of the Reich from both directions. The Rhine is crossed. March 7th, 1945. Remagen, 1300 hours. The Rhine was supposed to be the line that stopped everything. For centuries, it had been Germany's shield, wide, cold, fast-moving. High bluffs on the eastern bank. Fortified towns along its crossings. Demolitions wired into every bridge. If the Allies were ever forced to halt, regroup, and bleed for time, it would be here. That was the theory. In practice, the theory collapses in less than 24 minutes. American infantry from a 9th Armored Division emerge from the smoke at Remagen and see something they're not supposed to see. The bridge is still standing. The Ludendorff Bridge, scarred and burning, shakes under artillery fire, but it has not fallen. German engineers had tried to destroy it. Charges misfired. Others detonated too weakly. Desperation had replaced precision, and now the unthinkable is happening. The Allies are already running. Men sprint across planks slick with rain and debris as machine gun fire rakes the span. Concrete chips explode. Steel groans. The bridge could collapse at any second, but hesitation is more dangerous than speed. Behind them, tanks wait their turn. Engineers follow with wire cutters and explosives of their own. Overhead, Allied fighters scream low, hunting German gun positions with merciless accuracy. By nightfall, the impossible has happened. The Rhine has been crossed intact. Within days, pontoon bridges bloom across the river like steel scars. Entire American armies surge eastward, pouring into the German heartland faster than planners ever dared imagine. Defensive lines drawn on maps are bypassed or shattered before orders can even be issued. German command reacts with fury and confusion. Hitler orders the bridge retaken. Luftwaffe pilots are sent on suicide missions against it. Frogmen swim beneath it with explosives. Two rockets are launched in blind hope. None of it matters. The bridge holds long enough, and long enough is all the Allies need. West of the Rhine, the German army disintegrates in real time. Entire divisions surrender without firing a shot. Thousands of soldiers march into captivity, relieved more than ashamed. They know the war is over, even if Berlin refuses to admit it. Cities fall in rapid succession. Cologne, Frankfurt, Kassel, American and British armor rolls past burning factories and shattered rail yards. Civilians emerge cautiously from cellars, white flags hanging from windows. Some cry, some stare in silence. Some look only exhausted. There is no fanfare, no last stand, just a steady, unstoppable movement of men who know they will not be stopped again. Behind the advancing armies, supply lines stretch forward unchallenged. Fuel flows. Ammunition piles up. Replacement troops arrive fresh, well-fed, confident. This is what a functioning war machine looks like, and it is crushing one that no longer functions at all. German counterattacks are attempted. Poorly planned, under strength, hopeless. Tank units arrive without fuel. Infantry attacks stall under overwhelming artillery fire. Air support is non-existent. The Luftwaffe, once feared, now appears only in isolated, desperate sorties. Every mile eastward makes the reality harder to deny. Germany cannot stop the West. Not now. Not ever again. What remains of the German high command begins to fracture. Some generals quietly consider surrendering to the Americans rather than the Soviets. Others cling to loyalty, waiting for orders that will never bring victory, only delay. Hitler responds by tightening control, not loosening it. He replaces commanders, issues threats, demands obedience. The war in his mind has become a test of will rather than strategy. But will cannot rebuild bridges. It cannot conjure fuel. It cannot resurrect armies that no longer exist. As Allied troops push deeper into Germany, the map in Hitler's bunker become the lies so obvious that even the pins can no longer hide it. The Western Allies are inside the Reich. The Rhine is behind them. And in the east, something even more unstoppable is already moving. The Soviet hammer falls. April 16, 1945. Oder River, Eastern Germany. 5:30 hours. The dawn is gray, frozen, and metallic, the kind that seeps into your bones before the sun has a chance to rise. The Red Army waits on the eastern bank of the Oder, its mass artillery speaking in rumbling whispers that promise thunder. Tanks crouch behind levees, their long barrels aimed like teeth ready to bite. Engineers check their bridging pontoons. Sapper units prepare charges for every last obstacle, and infantrymen, shoulder to shoulder, count silently the seconds until the assault begins. The first salvo is deafening. Hundreds of guns fire in concert, sending earth flying, trees bending, and clouds of smoke curling like serpents into the sky. Every explosion is precise, orchestrated, and terrifying. Soviet artillery, does not announce itself. It arrives like judgment. Villages crumble, rail yards vanish, roads become cratered scars across the land. Soldiers huddle, checking weapons, gripping rifles, and listening to the roar of destruction that signals the collapse of Germany from the east. Across the river, German defenders brace. The Volkssturm and shattered Wehrmacht remnants are skeletons of an army, armed with what they can grasp. Rifles, pistols, even farming tools press into service. They cling to positions once considered defensible, but the Oder is no Rhine. The river is a warning, and the Soviets are an avalanche. Yet they fight, because obedience, fear, and pride still burn hotter than logic. When the first Soviet units step into the river, bullets meet water with sparks and screams. Machine guns tear the air, yet the infantry keeps moving, wading, swimming, pressing forward under a storm of fire that would break lesser men. Engineers stretch pontoon bridges under artillery cover, risking life with every plank laid. Tanks lumber forward, tracks gouging mud as shells impact mere meters away. The river is a crucible, and only those who endure its fire will survive the day. By noon, the Oder crossings are secure. Soviet armor begins a methodical advance into Brandenburg and the outskirts of Berlin. Smoke rises from every town, punctuated by the occasional flare revealing terrified civilians fleeing, German soldiers surrendering, and the crushed remnants of mechanized units that can no longer fight. The Germans cannot retreat. There is nowhere left to fall back. Inside Berlin, the sense of inevitability has begun to settle. Reports flood the Führer bunker. Bridges destroyed, divisions annihilated, reserves exhausted. Hitler listens furious, yet unmoved by reality. Outside, the Soviet juggernaut moves like a living weapon, precise and unrelenting. Street by street, town by town, the eastern advance grinds onward. By evening, the Oder is a line of fire and smoke, crossed and held. German soldiers lie where they fell. Prisoners are collected in droves, and the city of Berlin, once distant, now presses on the horizon. The Red Army pauses only to consolidate, resupply, and prepare for the final descent. This is more than an advance. It is a prelude to fall of a regime that has consumed Europe in fire and terror for 6 long years. And in the shadows of ruined villages and broken towns, the German people understand that history is arriving in unstoppable force. The East will not yield. The Soviet hammer has fallen. Hitler's last hours. April 30th, 1945. Führer bunker, Berlin. 12:15 hours. The air is thick with smoke and the acrid tang of despair. The bunker, once a place of calculated command, now smells of sweat, fear, and the stale remnants of a city being eaten alive from above. Maps litter the floor, pins marking positions that no longer matter. Outside, the sound of artillery punctuates every moment, a relentless heartbeat of destruction that echoes in the minds of those trapped beneath the Reich. Hitler paces rigid, fists clenching and unclenching. His generals hover, faces pale, uniforms crumpled and stained. Reports are read in grim monotone. The Western Allies across the Rhine. Paris is liberated. Soviet tanks are on the outskirts of Berlin. Every update carries the same deadly truth. Germany is finished. Yet Hitler refuses reality. His speeches, once commanding, now trail into delusion, tangle with rage and fear. He blames traitors, incompetence, and luck, but never himself. Eva Braun sits quietly in a corner, pale under the dim electric light, her presence fragile against the bunker's oppressive weight. Soldiers and aides whisper in corridors, voices tight with terror. The Führer is no longer a symbol of strength, but of the inevitable. The bunker's walls tremble with every shell that strikes above, each shock a grim reminder of the city collapsing outside. Hitler calls for his personal aides. Instructions are given with meticulous care for his own departure. Cyanide capsules are gathered. Pistols are checked. The ceremony of suicide is as orderly as a military operation, yet the irony is suffocating. The man who orchestrated the destruction of millions now arranges his own final act in the bowels of a shattered city. Outside, the sounds of war continue unabated. Soviet troops advance block by block, artillery punctuating the cries of the city in agony. Fires spread across Berlin, and the skies are a swirl of smoke and ash, blotting the pale spring sun. The bunker seems like a tomb waiting for history to arrive. Yet inside, Hitler's mind clings to visions of grandeur that have long been obliterated by reality. As the clock approaches 15:30, Hitler retreats to his private quarters. A small pistol, the Walther PPK, is checked. Eva Braun joins him, and the room is silent but for the distant rumble of the city's death throes. A final gesture of unity, a last assertion of control in a world that no longer bends to his will. The world outside has already decided the Reich's fate. Inside, the Führer claims his final act. Moments later, the sound of a single gunshot echoes faintly through bunker, absorbed by stone and reinforced walls. Outside, Berlin continues to burn. The Red Army presses forward, unaware that the man who orchestrated a continent's devastation is gone. The Reich's heart has stopped beating, yet the consequences of its lifelong terror will echo far beyond the ruins of a single city. And in the chaos above, the first flags of liberation flicker among the smoke. Victory is near, but only because the price has been unimaginable. The fall of Berlin. May 1st, 1945. Berlin streets. 6 o'clock hours. The city is unrecognizable. Once proud avenues are rubble-strewn, buildings scarred by shell fire. Windows shatter like teeth from a long-fought battle. Smoke drifts through the streets, a heavy, suffocating fog that clings to every surface. The smell of cordite blood and fire hangs in the air, a constant reminder that Berlin has become a graveyard for its own people. Soviet soldiers move cautiously, boots crunching over shattered masonry and splintered wood. Their faces are streaked with soot and exhaustion, eyes hardened by months of relentless combat. Tanks advance through the streets in slow, deliberate motion, crushing barricades and debris under iron tracks. Artillery fire still erupts sporadically from hidden German positions, each salvo met with relentless return fire. The fighting is brutal, intimate, and chaotic, a city reduced to a war-torn maze. Amid the chaos, pockets of German resistance cling desperately to the last vestiges of hope. Volkssturm militias, barely trained, poorly armed, fight alongside remnants of the Wehrmacht. Their weapons are scavenged rifles, handguns, and even homemade explosives. Courage and desperation intertwine in every move, but the end is inevitable. Soviet squads methodically clear streets, house by house, floor by floor, leaving no corner unchecked. Red Army officers shout orders over the din, directing soldiers to secure key locations. The Reichstag, government buildings, strategic intersections. Each captured building carries the weight of history. The Reichstag, once a symbol of German power, now reduced to ruins, becomes the epicenter of final conquest. Soldiers climb over rubble, dragging the fallen aside, carrying wounded comrades, their movements precise despite the chaos. Civilians stumble through the wreckage, faces pale and haunted, some clutching children, others carrying meager belongings. Hunger, fear, and exhaustion are etched into every line of their faces. The war that once raged across Europe has arrived in their streets, and its consequences are inescapable. Smoke and flame consume homes, and the sounds of gunfire and explosions echo endlessly, blending with the cries of the desperate. By afternoon, the Soviet flag rises over the Reichstag. Its fabric, dirty and torn, flutters against the backdrop of a shattered cityscape, a symbolic act, signaling the collapse of the Nazi regime and the completion of a brutal siege. The streets are littered with bodies, weapons, and shattered vehicles, a testament to the final, violent days of the Third Reich. Amid the destruction, the first whispers of surrender ripple through the German defenders. Communications falter, commands are ignored. The once feared German war machine is fragmented, broken, and exhausted. Soldiers lay down arms, some out of disbelief, others out of recognition that survival is impossible. Berlin is no longer a city under siege. It is a city conquered. And yet, even in victory, the Red Army soldiers move carefully, aware that a liberated city is also a haunted one. Every corner hides danger, every building a potential trap. The fall of Berlin is complete, but the price paid is measured in thousands of lives, countless injuries, and a city left scarred for generations. Surrender and aftermath. May 8th, 1945. Across Europe. 23:59 hours. The world holds its breath. Across shattered cities, smoke-choked fields, and battered towns, the word spreads, Germany has surrendered. In command centers, radio operators, clerks, and officers record the final transmissions. The signing of unconditional surrender marks the end of a war that engulfed continents, destroyed millions of lives, and reshaped the globe. In Berlin, the streets are eerily silent compared to the previous weeks of relentless combat. Soldiers wander cautiously, checking barricades, confirming that resistance has ceased. Red Army troops move through the city systematically, disarming the last pockets of German fighters, rescuing civilians trapped in cellars and basements. Their faces are a mixture of exhaustion and grim satisfaction. The battle is over, but the scars remain visible in every ruined building, every collapsed bridge, every overturned vehicle. In Western Europe, Allied forces cross what remains of German territory. Soldiers march through bombed-out villages, their boots crunching over debris. Civilians emerge from hiding, faces a mix of relief, fear, and disbelief. Survivors search among ruins for family members, homes, and remnants of normal life. Some find joy in reunion. Others find only loss. The war has ended, but the human cost is starkly visible everywhere. In military headquarters, generals and commanders review reports. Maps are marked with the rapid advances of Allied and Soviet forces. Cities liberated, towns occupied, strategic points captured. Plans are drafted for occupation, governance, and reconstruction. The once mighty German war machine is dismantled, its leadership dead, captured, or in hiding. Adolf Hitler's suicide is confirmed, his ideology in ruins. Across the continent, celebrations erupt. Soldiers, weary and scarred, raise their voices in triumph. Civilians cheer in liberated streets. Bonfires flare against the night sky. Yet amid the jubilation, there is a quiet acknowledgement. This victory comes at an unimaginable cost. Millions dead, countless displaced, cities flattened. Europe has been irrevocably transformed. Meanwhile, questions of the future begin to take shape. Germany is divided among the Allied powers, American, British, Soviet, and later French zones. A plan for occupation, denazification, and rebuilding begins. Political lines are drawn. Tensions emerge, and the seeds of a new geopolitical struggle quietly sprout even as the guns fall silent. Soldiers return home, carrying memories that will not fade. Civilians attempt to rebuild shattered lives. And historians, journalists, and scholars begin documenting the stories of heroism, atrocity, and survival that define these final days. The war is over, yet its lessons echo through every conversation, every memorial, and every decision that follows. And in the midst of victory and relief, a chilling understanding settles. Humanity has survived the darkest chapters it could imagine, but the costs are measured in ways no number or metal can fully convey. Europe is free, but changed forever. The Third Reich is no more. The world enters a fragile peace, wary and watchful, yet finally unbound from the tyranny that had gripped it for 6 years.